Welcome to Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday night edition. I'm Al Huey, along with my co-host here and partner, Robert Eierman. And we're talking about water again tonight.
Imagine
Surprising.
that.
I don't know.
I thought we were going to talk wine, women, and song.
Or, putting up the Christmas tree or whatever. But here we are. I think this is going to be an ongoing topic here. And our special guest tonight is Mr. Bill Manofsky.
How you doing?
Thank you for joining us, Bill.
Thanks, Al.
Bill's a former Navy commander, I believe stationed here at one time, weren't you?
That's correct.
When I say here, China Lake. And you've been quite involved in this whole water issue for some time here in the valley.
That's correct.
Now, were you doing that when you were still in the Navy?
I had a little something to do with the response to the BRAC Commission 2000 to 2004. I was on the periphery of that. I was military deputy for weapons for Code Force 7, and I participated in part of the response.
Okay. And that BRAC Commission report, if I'm not mistaken, that the Navy put out at that time said that we had enough water for 160 years.
Honestly, I am not familiar with that part because, in my perspective, the water was not the significant issue that we were looking at.
Right. I think the bottom line is that there may have been some caveats in the report that led to that conclusion, but those caveats weren't in the report.
Well, it's definitely part of the discussion because people wanted to know, outside the community and in the community, okay, because at that time we were talking bringing in a huge number of people.
And we had to feel comfortable that there was
were we going to be
sufficient
able to
water.
handle them
Yes.
infrastructural wise?
I remember that part of the discussion. You got to understand the way the document was set up. There was many sections that had to be responded to.
Sure.
Right.
And water and environmental was one of them.
Correct.
And I was more involved in tactical usage, things like that.
So you left the Navy when? You're retired now?
I was medically retired from the Navy technically in 2008.
Okay.
And I'm retired now, and I've spent, since 2003, I've been an advocate for veterans issues since then.
Well, great,
And
great.
I'm currently the National Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the Association of the United States Navy. And we work on a myriad of issues. We consider ourselves the voice of the sailor, and we lobby Congress for the benefit of the Navy. And we have just now taken on this water and energy resource issue as one of our legislative agenda items. And not just here at China Lake, but in the Central Valley too.
So when did you first come to the Valley?
In 2000. In fact, good question. When I came to China Lake, it was right at the end. I came as a civilian. I was a reservist. I came as a civilian. I hired in right at the end of a 5-year hiring freeze. And this place was, you could lay down in the middle of China Lake Boulevard and not get run over for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody here. And I think the seminal moment that I've noticed was when they literally put in Home Depot.
Yeah.
And we went from being Little Mayberry, we bypassed Mount Pilot, we're now Raleigh.
Yeah, well, what do you think is going to be the situation when the Super Walmart opens?
That's even bigger.
Yes. To me, I think that other companies will now see us as legitimate.
That's what I'm all about, is I'm following the guidance of the Kern County grand jury that said we need to diversify.
Yes.
There is a very definite no-growth contingent here in town that wants to focus on the base as the primary supplier of the or the support of the economy. I think the best thing for the Navy is to have a very economically diverse economy around the area. And Home Depot, Super Walmart, excellent. But I don't think that we're going to draw a big auto. We're not going to draw a big pharma. We're not going to draw Silicon Valley. The low-hanging fruit is, sorry to say it, big ag and big solar.
Yes.
And we need to focus on those. And personally, I think the seminal moment in this issue, other than Home Depot opening up was when Mojave Pistachio put the orchard in north of Inyakern. I think everything was fine. Everybody accepted the ag community. The alfalfa farmers were drawing their water. The base told the BRAC Commission everything was fine, and then Mojave Pistachio put that orchard in, and then the orchard went in next to Black Mountain Estates, and everybody panicked.
I don't know if either of you remember, I know you probably won't, but there used to actually be another large alfalfa grower out there off of Brown Road.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be two.
Mm-hmm.
That one closed up supposedly, well, I don't want to say. He closed up for some reason.
You're talking about Neil Ranch, are you?
I don't know who owned it. It would have been on the west side of Brown Road. So,
I don't know either.
because I came here in '87 and traveled that route all the time for work. And
Oh yeah, that's right. You did.
they were there then. And they stopped growing for whatever reason. And then this other one was there too, but not as big as it is now. It's much bigger than what it was. So we were actually drawing, I guess you could say, a bit more water when we had two alfalfa fields there.
Yes.
So
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. In fact, during my research, it showed that I forget the peak years, but it seems like it was in the 95-ish time frame was the peak use of water by agriculture,
okay.
and it's more than it is now.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to have to go to break here in a little bit. I take it since you've on the legislative committee for this group, you've been talking with people back in D.C., probably been back there a couple of times. When we come back from break, let us know what you've heard from them, what you're telling them, and any kind of pro or con support that you've been getting here locally in conjunction to what you've been doing back in D.C.
Certainly.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break here a little early. Let our advertisers pay the bills here. We're not sure when this is going to air, so if it airs after Thanksgiving, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And if it airs before, please do have a great Thanksgiving.
Right. All right, well, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back. Join us on the other side of the break here on Thursday night, Ridgecrest Talk.
And welcome back to segment 2 this evening, Thursday evening, here on Ridgecrest Talk. Again, I'm Robert Eierman, along with co-host Al Huey, and it's our pleasure to have with us Commander Bill Manofsky, retired, and you had a question for him.
Well, before break, I brought up the fact that you're on this legislative committee for the veterans, and you've been in contact with Washington, and what's going on there? What have you heard? Who have you talked to? And what kind of kickback or support are you getting locally from our elected officials on that?
Okay. 3 weeks ago, Tim Ross and Dave Gutierrez from DWR were out here, and they made a long presentation. And after the meeting, I pulled Dave Gutierrez off to the side and told him who I was and what I could do. And I go, if there's anything that I can do in Washington, what is it? And he said, quote, help the Navy get more money to drill for wells. So I take that as a mission statement. And again, my position from the current Navy position, I call it a modified position, is yes, there is a shortage, but I think the best thing for the Navy is to find new water. If we go on the existing water, we may still be in trouble, okay? So currently, my counterpart at our national headquarters in Washington, D.C., his name is Mike Little. He's our paid legislative director there. He has had regular meetings with Congressman David Valadao, the 21st District here in California, which is where Lemoore Naval Air Station is. Mm. And the comment was made that the water problem in the Central Valley is actually changing the migratory bird routes. to where they're having a bird strike issue at Lemoore.
Wow.
And that got his attention to where he has 2 bills into the House right now to address the water issues in the Central Valley. Senator Feinstein also has a similar bill in. The wording's a little different. And I see these as great vehicles to try to address the issue here in the Eastern Sierra as far as trying to get money to explore for new water. Because from what I've seen, I'm a mechanical engineer, and the data that I've seen is there's water up to the north, and per Tim Ross's slides that he presented, there's water to the south. There's a well up north that's not in decline, it's actually rising. There's actually a well to the south that's actually rising. And he also presented a slide to show that the
Both
area,
these wells are in our basin.
yeah, and the area south of Walker Pass is a rechargeable area, not an area in decline. So we had the potential for extra well fields on top of the one we had drilled right in the middle, which is basically this giant inverted cone now that's been over-drilled and overdrawn. So what I want to do, and on top of that, we are very fortunate to have Congressman Kevin McCarthy as our congressman. He is the Speaker of the House. And the way the
Well, not
House...
the Speaker of the House.
I mean, excuse me, he's the majority leader.
Right.
I spoke out of
Almost
turn.
the Speaker.
Wishful
Almost.
thinking.
Yes.
But that's still just as good because the way the House works is they all take their direction from the leadership. So that's one reason why I don't really have to register as a lobbyist, because I can go to McCarthy's staff and say, hey, I need to talk to somebody on a board or on a committee, and they will introduce me, and that way we're good. So in the case of McCarthy, we're going to be taking this issue to him. He already knows all about it. All right, he's well aware of the issue. He understands the frustrations from both sides. And so what we want to do is further augment him with new data and try to help push for new funding for exploration and get independent sources in to basically follow what Dr. Iris Priesthoff told me yesterday. I talked to her on the phone. She's the president of Todd Engineering.
Really?
She was surprised to hear that so much weight in this issue was put on their report. And she's allowing me to quote her. Basically, she says, do more studies. Essentially, don't just focus on the one study. Get more management of the water. And then on top of that, include everyone in the discussion, which includes the farmers. And a lot of people don't want to hear that right now.
Yeah, you say they put a lot of weight on the Todd report. I would phrase it more like they used it to drop the Empire State Building on us. They used it to try and crush anybody who did not agree with the Todd report.
And discounted previous reports.
That was covered real well by saying, well, the Todd report took all of that into consideration.
Yeah.
Well, I'm of the opinion that we are an open basin, that we do get recharge from the Sierras and we do get recharge from the Owens Lake Basin. In fact, the proof of that is Little Lake still has water in it. It's not like Lake Mead or Lake Powell where they got these big bathtub rings around them. There's no bathtub ring around Little Lake. It's being recharged from something, and it's upstream of us. Okay? So it's a matter of going up there and drilling to see how deep the water is. I guarantee you there's more water coming in underground than on the surface. But to a point, talking with Dr. Priesthoff, she said basically the recharge from the Sierras doesn't exist. And that was based on the opinion of one person. I think we really need to do more studies. I'd like to see the Colorado School of Mines brought in for an independent assessment of the recharge from the Sierras. I mean, I myself went up into Sand Canyon after I took receipt from the county of the chart recorder that was up there, which shows Sand Canyon's dry. Well, they put it in the wrong place because I went up just below the upper LA Aqueduct, which is dry, and there's a flowing stream up there with a pond. And the bathtub ring around that pond is only 1.5 inches. I mean, what more evidence do you need of stuff? I mean, that's anecdotal evidence.
Right.
That may be not enough to recharge the entire valley, but to say there's nothing coming in, I discount that.
Well, you can get all the data you want to support your position, either pro or con, because there's been two positions here on water ever since.
Yeah, ever since the beginning of time in this
Right.
valley, virtually.
Well,
yes.
and I think really, what we're driving at, and unfortunately, we're led down to this path to adjudication. And the only way that
Well,
this
we're going to have
evidence
to
is
take
going
a
to be...
break. We'll talk about that when we come back after
Okay.
the break.
How
We're going
much-
to take our break again. Join us on the other side of the break. You're listening to Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday night edition.
If we could only say it.
Yeah. Welcome back. We're talking with Bill Manofsky, former Navy commander here. And before we went on break, you were talking about there's evidence of water to the north and to the south. And you looked at the county's, what was it, a well they had drilled? Or?
Basically, Tim Ross, the hydrologist for DWR, presented a slide 3 weeks ago that showed wells in the basin, and there was one particularly in the North Range that is showing an increase in water level, and then there's one down by the shooting range that's doing the same thing. And then I also have...
But the one you checked before we went to break, you went there and you said it was dry. And then you went a little bit further. And
Oh, no,
that was the spring.
That
area.
was up in Sand Canyon. I in response to this, there's no recharge from the Sierras. I went up to Sand Canyon and Short Canyon with Carl Austin Jr., his wife, and his mother-in-law. And I also at the same time took receipt of the county data from 2 chart recorders, one in Grapevine Canyon and one in Sand Canyon. Now, I haven't gone into Grapevine Canyon yet, but the one in Sand Canyon shows it's dry. Well, they only put one up there. The problem is the water comes down, it goes underground, it comes back up, it goes underground, and it comes back up. So they put it in a dry spot. Because when I went up there just below, you can go up there now, it's a great place to go take a picnic. Right below the upper LA Aqueduct is a flowing stream. I put a video.
I was there years ago.
I put a video on Facebook a couple weeks ago. Gurgling water coming into a big pond, and the bathtub ring around that pond is only 1.5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's other evidence like that.
Okay, so getting back to wells now. You mentioned off the air about a well off of Ridgecrest Boulevard.
West
that was
Ridgecrest
drilled
Boulevard.
some years ago, and it's showing
4,200 gallons per minute, not hour, per minute flow rate when they first stress tested. This is a 10-inch well down to 1,000 feet, right below the inverted cone by the intermediate well field. And with that flow rate, it was only shown a 17-foot drawdown. Now, I was told by the source who gave this to me that comparable wells outside the valley, good wells, do 2,500 gallons per minute, not 4,200. And they draw down 200 to 300 feet. This only went down 1,700 feet.
17 feet.
17 feet, I'm sorry. And the recharge was in several minutes when they turned the pump off. This is right in the middle of the bullseye, okay? And I talked to one of the people that was...
Do they know if was it Sweetwater or brackish
No,
water?
no, it passed a Title 22 report. It is potable water. And I talked to one of the well drillers who said that when they put the casing down, the flow of the water was pushing the casing to one side of the drill hole, which means there's water flowing down there. How do you have water flowing in a closed basin at that kind of
Good
flow
question.
rate?
Political hot air pushing it.
All right, and so what else have you heard about other wells or you know, when you and I talked initially before last week, you were talking about the idea, you mentioned just a bit ago, water to the north and water to the south, and your idea of trying to get wells put in there.
Well, it isn't my idea. This is the discussion that's going on. I'm here about solutions.
Okay.
You know, I'm not here to get rid of ag or push
Okay,
people.
whoever's
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, it's that
But I heard
imagine
they want to drill wells in those two locations.
Imagine instead of just having the intermediate well field in Eierman, imagine having another well field, and you turn the Eierman one off and turn this one on, and they do it every 5 years. That's 5 years worth of recharge in the intermediate well zone. Imagine that. Well, if you have a third well, imagine you have a well up north, a well field north of 9 Mile Road, and you have a well field on the east side of the 14 up by Walker Pass. They're both uphill, so gravity will flow the water down. It won't cost a lot of money to get it down here. You have 3 well fields that you turn off every 5 years. That means the idle well fields will get 10 years of recharge. Imagine the intermediate well field getting 10 years worth of recharge. I don't think we'd have a problem.
I don't think so.
Well, if you listen to some people,
Yeah.
Since there is no recharge,
Right.
But
We need to prove there's a recharge.
Yeah.
We need to drill down 1,000, 2,000 feet in the right locations, advised by the right people to find the water.
Well,
This
Robert and I were talking coming here today, and we won't mention who it was, but somebody contacted him, someone who's drilled a few wells in this valley.
20.
Yeah. And he's drilled wells down to 1,000 feet. And he says that there is plenty of water. Plenty of water.
I
But
have
the
to
people
agree with
that
that.
have wells that are 250, 350 feet, and maybe, I won't argue that their wells are going down, but they're getting all that blowback from all the other wells, you know, that are drilled in that immediate area, some of them ag users that are drawing quite a bit of water. Well, it's going to draw down some of the other wells.
Yes, the cone of depression around the heavy draw would do that.
Right. But if these people were to drill down 1,000 feet, maybe not so much influence. I don't know.
Well, that's another suggestion being put out is maybe the days of private wells, and I know this is going to get me a lot of phone calls, but maybe the days of private wells in the Mojave Desert is over. The best thing to do would be for Eierman and all those private well owners go on their own water district, drill several 1,000-foot wells, well-maintained, clean, and deliver water as opposed to all these people trying to do this Oregon pipe.
Yeah. We're going to have to talk about this more. Will you come back and
I
talk
will.
to us again?
Certainly.
All right, we're going to have to end this interview for tonight. Join us next week when we'll continue this discussion with Mr. Bill Manofsky about water. And we sure appreciate him being here. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
You folks have a good evening, and we'll see you next week.